Okay, so have you ever felt like you're just drowning in to-dos? You know, like you're constantly busy but not really getting
Oh,
anywhere?
yeah, totally.
It's like that classic productivity trap, right? We're
Yeah.
tackling that head on today. We're doing a deep dive into a review of the productivity blueprint.
Hmm.
It promises a way out of that, like that whole overwhelmed feeling.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the reviewer started out totally skeptical, you
Mm.
know? Like, many of us would be, they were swamped with work,
Oh, for sure.
deadlines looming, just not sure if this whole blueprint thing was just another self-help, like, gimmick, you know?
Oh, totally. I get that. They even described their workspace as like a paper blizzard,
Haha.
which I feel like felt that in my soul. And they were really into just like the stay busy approach.
Right, which, surprise, surprise,
Yeah, wasn't exactly working.
not so much. That's where the blueprint's emphasis on effectiveness versus efficiency comes in.
Oh, interesting.
It's about really making sure you're focusing your energy on the things that truly matter, not just racing to get everything done as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So how does this blueprint actually like help you do that? What did the reviewer find useful?
Well, one of the biggest things they highlighted was figuring out when your peak energy periods are and then actually, like, matching your tasks accordingly.
Oh, well,
So the reviewer found that tackling those super mentally demanding tasks during their most energetic time, which for them was the mornings, made a huge difference.
mm-hmm.
Like, for example, they started scheduling all of their brainstorming sessions for the mornings, and they noticed like a real improvement in the quality of their ideas.
So it's about like working with your natural energy rhythms instead of trying to force yourself into some kind of like mold that just doesn't fit.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, recognizing when you're most alert and focused and using that time wisely.
Okay.
But it's also about knowing when you might need a break or just like a less demanding task.
Right.
You know, like how the reviewer started taking those 10-minute walks after lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Simple,
So simple.
but really effective.
I actually started doing that too, and it really does help with that like afternoon slump.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes, even with good energy management, it's just like the sheer number of tasks can feel totally overwhelming.
Yeah.
So how does the blueprint like deal with that?
Well, that's where goal setting and action planning come in.
Okay.
But not in that typical way you might think. It's not about setting those vague goals like be more productive.
Yeah. Been there.
Oh, we've all done that.
Done that.
The blueprint's all about breaking down large goals into smaller, more actionable steps.
Okay.
So, like, for instance, the reviewer wanted to revamp their entire client onboarding process.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Which felt like, oh my gosh, huge, right? But they used the blueprints method and broke it down.
Okay.
They broke it down into smaller milestones, like researching best practices, then drafting a plan, then testing it out, and then finally implementing it. It turned this like gigantic project into a series of achievable tasks.
That's a really good way to put it. Like, is that old saying, how do you eat an elephant?
Exactly.
A bite at a time.
One bite at a time. And you get that sense of accomplishment as you finish each step.
Right.
And that can really fuel you to keep going.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I got to ask about the technology side of things.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'll admit I can feel a little behind sometimes when it comes to all the latest tech.
Oh, yeah, I get it. But the reviewer actually started out feeling the same way.
Okay.
The blueprint's not about becoming some tech whiz. It's more about using tech strategically to just make your workflow smoother.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel better. So what were some examples of how they like incorporated tech?
Well, they got really into using Trello, which is a project management tool. They particularly loved using Trello's Kanban boards to kind of visualize their workflow and that calendar view to keep track of all their deadlines.
Right.
It helped them avoid those last-minute scrambles and that feeling of being scattered, which I think we can all relate to.
Yep, for sure.
They also were really into those scheduling tools to automate stuff like setting up meetings,
Oh, yeah.
taking those things off your plate.
I'm starting to see how the right tech can make things simpler, not more complicated, like I sometimes worry about.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
What about the mental game?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Does the blueprint address mindset at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It really emphasizes building what they call a growth mindset,
Okay.
which is all about seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, not just as roadblocks.
That sounds like a really powerful like shift in perspective. How did the reviewer actually put that into practice?
Well, they said it was a total game changer when they were tackling a particularly tough project. Instead of getting bogged down by all the obstacles,
Yeah.
They looked at them as chances to learn, they actively sought out feedback, and they adapted their approach.
Yeah.
And they ended up turning what could have been a major setback into a significant success.
Wow, that's really inspiring. It shows how much our mindset can impact our results.
It really does. But let's face it,
Yeah.
sometimes we need a little extra help,
Oh, totally.
even with the right mindset and strategies.
Yeah. Did the blueprint offer any extra resources?
Yeah, did it offer anything like that?
It did. The reviewer raved about the bonus materials.
Oh,
They called them sprinkles on a productivity Sunday.
you got to tell me, what kind of sprinkles are we talking about here?
Okay, so they mentioned these time management templates that they compared to having a personal productivity coach guiding them through their day.
Ooh.
And then they also mentioned a guide specifically for managing those digital distractions.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, all those notifications and emails and social media rabbit holes that can totally derail us.
Yeah, I think we could all use a little help with that these days.
For sure, I'm interested in hearing more about those bonus materials.
Yeah, me too.
And what else stood out to the reviewer? We'll dive into all of that right after this.
All right, sounds good. So before we got totally distracted by all those tempting sprinkles, we were talking about all the bonus materials that come with the productivity blueprint. What else did the reviewer have to say about those? Well, those time management templates, they were a big hit. They described them as having a personal productivity coach guiding them through their day,
Oh, nice.
which I thought was such a great way to put it.
Yeah, I can totally see that. So I'm picturing like a template that helps you actually like map out your day,
Uh-huh.
prioritize tasks,
Yeah.
allocate time effectively.
Hmm.
Was that kind of their experience?
Yeah, spot on. They specifically mentioned a daily planner template
Okay.
that really incorporated the blueprint's key principles, like aligning your tasks with your energy levels, remember.
Right, right.
And there were also weekly and monthly planning templates to
Mhm.
help with, bigger picture planning.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
I think having those visual reminders and prompts throughout the day could be really helpful for staying on track, especially for people who, like me, can get easily distracted by shiny objects.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of distractions, the reviewer raved about the guide on managing digital distractions.
Oh, tell me more about that.
All those pesky notifications, emails, the social media rabbit holes.
The rabbit holes. Oh, yeah.
That can just totally derail even the best laid plans.
Oh, I know those rabbit holes all too well.
Yeah.
So what kind of strategies did this guide offer?
Well, it had some pretty practical tips, like turning off non-essential notifications, setting specific times for checking email and social media,
Okay.
and even using website blockers
Oh, wow.
to prevent those, unintentional internet deep dives.
Okay, those are some solid strategies that I think
Yeah.
a lot of us could benefit from. But I'm also curious about how the blueprint deals with the psychological aspect of distractions. You know, that feeling of needing to constantly check our phones or feeling anxious when we're not connected.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And the guide actually goes into that too.
Oh, okay.
It talks about really understanding why we get distracted
Hmm.
and offers strategies for developing healthier habits
Okay.
and building a more mindful relationship with technology.
So it's not just about the technical tips, but also about understanding our own behaviors and motivations,
Exactly. It's about tackling the root causes of distraction. Yeah,
rather than just treating the symptoms.
I like that.
And the reviewer actually said this approach was super helpful in lowering their overall stress and boosting their focus.
That's awesome. So we've got the time management templates, the digital distraction guide. What other goodies were in this, productivity treasure chest?
Oh, yeah. They were really excited about the productivity checklists.
Oh, nice.
I imagine those are great for tracking your progress and making sure you're not falling behind on your goals.
Yeah, especially when you're working on larger projects.
Right.
It's easy to get lost in the details and lose sight of the big picture.
Totally. So having those checklists as reminders,
Yeah.
accountability tools, I bet that's super valuable.
Definitely. And did they mention anything about whether those checklists were, customizable?
Yes, they said they were.
Yeah.
So you can really tailor them to your own specific needs and projects. Okay, so we've got time management templates, a digital distraction guide, customizable checklists. It really does sound like a full-blown toolkit for boosting productivity.
Hmm.
Did the reviewer talk about who this blueprint is best suited for?
They said it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right.
They listed busy professionals, entrepreneurs, students, creative types.
Mhm.
Really anyone who just feels overwhelmed by their workload or is looking for ways to be more effective with their time.
That's a pretty broad range. Did
Mm.
they give any examples of how those different people might benefit?
They did. They talked about how entrepreneurs could use it to streamline their business operations and, manage their time better.
Yeah.
They also mentioned students using it to improve their study habits,
Yeah.
get better grades. And then they even shared a story about a stay-at-home parent who used the blueprint to just create a more structured and productive daily routine.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. It sounds like these principles can apply to a lot of different lifestyles and goals.
Hmm.
But, let's be real, no system is perfect.
Mm?
Did the reviewer mention any potential drawbacks?
You're totally right. No system is perfect.
Yeah.
And while they didn't specifically list any downsides, they did say that actually putting this blueprint into practice does take some effort
Sure.
and commitment,
Yeah,
It's not like a magic wand you wave and suddenly you're a productivity guru.
that's a fair point.
Uh,
There's no instant fix.
Yeah.
It takes consistent effort and a willingness to actually change your habits.
for sure.
But I imagine for people who are ready to put in the work, the payoff could be pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely. And the reviewer's own experience definitely shows that
Yeah.
they talked about feeling way more in control of their time,
Okay.
more focused and more fulfilled in both their work and personal life.
Hmm.
They even mentioned having less stress and anxiety,
Oh, that's huge.
which is a big win these days,
Mhm.
right?
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. It sounds like the blueprint helped them create a more sustainable and enjoyable way of working and living, which is what we all want.
Right, exactly. I think that's a key takeaway here. The productivity blueprint isn't just about checking things off a list.
Right.
It's about designing a life where you feel empowered, balanced, and in control of your time and energy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
the price tag.
Yes.
The reviewer mentioned it's a significant investment.
It is.
So what are we talking about here?
Okay, so the reviewer said that the productivity blueprint, with all the bonus materials and everything, is priced at $265.97.
Okay.
And it's digital, so you get access right away.
All right. So that is a considerable investment, especially for something digital. Did they say if they felt it was worth the cost?
Yeah, they did. They said that the price might seem high at first glance,
Yeah.
but they emphasized that it's an investment in yourself and
Yeah.
your future. They even suggested thinking about it as a cost-benefit analysis, Like how much time and energy are you wasting now because you're disorganized or you procrastinate or you just can't focus?
Right.
And then compare that to what you could gain in terms of productivity and efficiency and just overall well-being from the blueprint.
So it's not just about the upfront cost, but about the long-term value and the return on investment.
Exactly. And they seemed convinced that the blueprint really delivers on that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mm.
I also imagine that some people might be hesitant to commit to such a, comprehensive system without knowing more about who created it and their philosophy.
That's a fair point. And the
Yeah.
reviewer actually talked about that too.
Oh, good.
They gave some background on the blueprint's creator,
Okay.
highlighting their experience and expertise in productivity and personal development.
So what kind of background did they have? Did they share any specifics?
They mentioned that the creator has a background in psychology
Okay.
and has spent years researching and developing productivity strategies that are both effective and, sustainable long-term.
Right.
They also highlighted how the creator focuses on, holistic well-being,
Okay.
emphasizing that true productivity goes beyond just getting things done.
Yeah.
It's about creating a life that actually aligns with your values and goals.
I like that. That's reassuring.
Yeah.
It sounds like the blueprint is based on both, like scientific research and a genuine desire to actually help people improve their lives.
Yeah.
But even with all this information, I'm sure some listeners might still be unsure. Is there anything else the reviewer shared that could help them decide?
There is one more thing. They told a story about a friend of theirs
Okay.
who was really struggling with work-life balance and just feeling constantly overwhelmed.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. And this friend was initially skeptical about the blueprint,
Okay.
but after seeing the positive changes the reviewer had experienced, they decided to give it a try.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happened? Did it work for the friend too?
It did. The reviewer said their friend's transformation was remarkable. They talked about how the friend was able to reclaim their evenings for family time,
Always.
reduce their stress levels, and feel more energized and engaged at work.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's one thing to hear about the blueprint's principles, just in theory.
Right.
But to hear about real people actually experiencing these benefits, it makes it so much more relatable and convincing.
I agree. And I think that's really the strength of this review.
Yeah.
It's not just a dry, analysis of a product. It's a personal story that shows how this blueprint can actually make a real difference in people's lives.
And it brings us back to that crucial question for our listeners. What would you do with that extra time and energy if you could reclaim even a small part of your day by using just one of these techniques? What dreams or goals could you actually pursue?
That's such a powerful question to think about.
It is.
Because at the end of the day, productivity isn't just about getting more done. It's about creating a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
Well said. And maybe, just maybe, exploring the productivity blueprint could be that first step towards that more fulfilling life. But before you make any decisions, we've got one last piece of the puzzle to explore. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back and ready for that last piece of the puzzle you mentioned.
Yeah.
What else did the review highlight about the productivity blueprint?
Well, they kept talking about this idea of intentional living throughout the whole review.
Intentional living. Okay.
Yeah, it's like making sure your actions actually match up with your values and making choices, conscious choices about how you spend your time and energy.
I like that. But what does that actually look like?
They had a good example.
Yeah.
The reviewer talked about how they used to just mindlessly scroll through social media
Oh, yeah.
for hours, feeling guilty afterward. But they wouldn't really change anything.
Right.
But then after they started using the blueprint, they actually set clear boundaries for their social media use, like specific times to check it. And then they used that freed up time for things that were more meaningful, like learning a new language.
Oh, wow.
Or spending more quality time with their family.
So it's not about, becoming a robot or planning out every minute.
No, not at all.
But it's more about making deliberate choices that actually align with your priorities.
Exactly. Reclaiming your time and energy and using them for things that truly matter to you.
Okay.
And the reviewer said that just this one shift had a huge impact on their whole life. They felt more focused, less stressed,
Wow.
and just overall had a greater sense of well-being.
It's pretty incredible how much of a difference that can make. It sounds like the blueprint helped them become more productive, but also just, happier overall.
Yeah, I think that's a really important takeaway. The productivity blueprint isn't just about checking things off a list.
Right.
It's a framework for intentional living. It's about knowing what you value, setting goals, and developing habits and systems that help you actually achieve those goals.
I'm starting to see why this blueprint really resonated with the reviewer.
Right.
It's not just about getting more done.
Right.
It's about living a more purposeful and fulfilling life.
Exactly. And something we can all work towards.
Definitely. And remember, while the blueprint provides a whole system,
Yeah,
it's really up to each person to tailor it to their own needs and goals, right?
exactly. The reviewer emphasized that it's all about experimenting,
Yeah.
finding what works for you, being open to adapting as you go.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution. It's
Yeah.
more like a set of guiding principles and tools that you can use to create your own unique productivity blueprint.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about giving you the power to take control of your time,
Yeah.
your energy, and ultimately your life.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm honestly feeling a sense of, possibility.
Yeah.
It's like this blueprint could be a path to not just more productivity, but to a more intentional and fulfilling way of living.
I love that.
Mm.
And, there are many paths to that. But the productivity blueprint definitely seems like a strong option for people looking for a structured and comprehensive approach.
Well said. So to our listeners, as you go about your day, think about this. What does intentional living mean to you? And what small steps can you take today to get a little closer to that? Maybe it's decluttering your workspace, setting boundaries with your phone,
Oh, yeah.
or even just taking a few minutes to reflect and plan.
Those are great ones.
And who knows, maybe the productivity blueprint could be part of your journey.
Maybe so.
But whatever path you choose, remember, you have the power to create a life that feels aligned, meaningful, and truly productive.
Well said.
Great note to end on. Thanks for exploring this with me. Until next time.